Today we are going to look at how to set up your gradebook. The gradebook is not as intuitive when you think about where you should go to set up your gradebook. You're not going to go to grades. Grades is the actual where you would enter scores if you're not using the speed grader. It's where you can see what a student's final grade is, what grade categories, what they've received for all their grade categories and everything. But it's not where you will set things up. It's where you make the policies, but not where you set up the assignments. So where we're going to go is assignments here. And by the way, I actually recommend not making this visible to students. I don't make assignments visible or pages or files or quizzes or discussions, because I believe that for easy student navigation, it's best to hide those things and then use the modules so that students can access everything they need in the order that they need it in the modules. Let me just show you really quick what I mean. So here you would add your assignments to modules. You'll create a module and then you would add, with this plus sign, add the assignments to the module instead of having them go to assignments. One way to disable that feature is to go to your settings in the course. You go to settings, you go to navigation, and then you just disable the things that you don't want them to see. So I would just disable these things that I would make available within the modules, and to make sure that navigation is friendly to students. Let's see, and the things that I don't use in the course, then I would just disable those things. Okay, that was just an example. So let's now go back to our assignments. This is where we're going to set up our gradebook. So I'm going to go to assignments. And I have already included some groups here, but I'm going to add in some more groups. So I'm going to add in another group, and I'm just going to call this one attendance and participation. I'm going to move this to the top by moving these 9 dots on the left side and move this to the top. The reason I'm putting attendance and participation at the top is because I haven't taken attendance yet in this class. I don't have any real students. But if I were to take attendance in this class, then the first day that I take attendance, so once I use this attendance here, and it will present my students here, once I take attendance, it will automatically create a column in the gradebook, and that column will go under your assignments at the top. So once that's created, you can move this down. Okay, so now that we have our grading groups, so attendance, quizzes, reading guides, final exam, midterm, homework, we can make these weighted so that we know that this is 10%, this is 20%, etc. You're going to go to these 3 dots on the top right, and we're going to go assignment group, click here, weight final grades, and now we can write in the numbers. So let's see, let's call that 10%, let's call that 15, let's call that 20, let's see, oops, we're at 105, so let me see what I'm going to take away. Okay, I'll call the final exam 20. So now I'm at 100%, and I'm going to click save. And now I know that 10% of their grade is attendance, 15% is quizzes. Now within these categories, for example, the quizzes, I can make all of my quizzes worth 10 points. I can make all of my quizzes worth 100 points. Just know that if you want your quizzes to be equal, then make them the same amount of points, whether it's 10 or 100 in that category. Or if you want some things to be a little bit more and other things to be a little bit less, then you can have a 10 point, a 5 point, a 7 point. But the total percentage of that category, so say they have a 10% out of 15%, that 10% plus the 8% they get here out of attendance, plus the 17 they get out of reading guides, plus the 16 they get out of final exam, etc., will add to their final grade. So let's go now back to the grades. And now we can see that 10% of their grade is that. This will give them a grade. Okay, so let's say I gave them this reading assignment grade. Somehow I only make it out of 100, so now they have extra credit, so that's a 5. And now I can see that I can't see because it's not I don't have a real person and I haven't created any more assignments here. But once I create assignments, then you'll see these assignments within that category. So these reading guides, this Cervantes reading guide follows in the category of reading guides here under the 20%. I don't have any real students in the class to show you, but here is where you make the grading policies. Here with the gear at the top, you can make it where if a student hasn't submitted something by the due date, you can apply automatic zeros here. You can also do a late submission deduction, but this is by the day or it's by the hour. So if you do it by the day, then you may want to do, for example, each day it's 1% off or 2% or 5%, and then there's a maximum lowest grade possible. So say the lowest grade that they can get is a 60%. So that tells you even if they've submitted it some days after, they can still get maybe a passing grade if a 60 is a passing grade. So this is what the lowest possible grade means. For example, a student, I had a 5% daily late policy. The student submits it 2 days late and they get 10% off. So if they were going to get 100%, they would have then get a 90%, right? Or a 90 out of 100 if I made it out of 100 points. Now, if the student submits it many days late, and if I were to use the 5% each day, then that student would get a 0, but I don't want them to get a 0 because I want them to still turn it in. Then you can submit a lowest possible grade of, say, 70. And so even if the student submits it late, they can still get a 70 if they were going to get 100%. Now, this doesn't mean that they can't get lower than that if you would give them the lower grade. So if you would give them a 60 because it's just not done correctly, they still get a 60. But this is if they were going to get a higher grade, then it doesn't penalize them so much. That's what that means. If you have any questions about that, I am welcome to talk to you about that. There's also the grade posting policy. Normally, if you type in a number here in the grade book, it'll automatically send it to the students. But you can make it manually where grades will be hidden by default. Any grades that have been already posted will remain visible. Choose when to post grades for each assignment on each column in the gradebook. So this is where maybe you want to grade everything, but you don't want to release the grades yet because maybe you want to see in the 2 different sections in your course, maybe you need to curve something and you just don't want everybody to know what their grade is yet, then you can use this grade posting policy. This, if you wanted to change a grade you wanted to do something that the mathematical calculation doesn't allow, then you can change something here. I don't recommend to do this too often. What I would do is if you really wanted to add in some, say maybe extra credit, then make it where you can add in an extra credit assignment worth 0 points and the students that do it can get points for that. Because if you do this, it's like you don't really have you might not have a system that is showing how fair this is if you're overriding grades for some students and not other students. And then here is, you'll notice in the grade book when a student submits something late, it'll be blue, it'll be red if it's missing, green if it's resubmitted, orange if it's dropped. And then you can also excuse assignments for students if you want to. Okay. So in this assignment here, I'm going to go to the speed grader on the right, And of course, you can give comments to students here, but you'll also notice if it was submitted late and things like that. You can mark it with this pencil here if it were late, missing, excused. So here is where you can excuse the assignment. All right, if you have any questions on setting up your gradebook, then please let me know at cetl@lincoln.edu. Thank you.